Are Kansas City real estate prices crashing in 2025? Well, if you've been reading the headlines about real estate markets across the country, you might think Kansas City is about to see a massive price drop.
Should you wait to buy a house in Kansas City because prices are about to crash? Or should you panic sell your home before it loses value? We get these questions every single day.
But here's the thing, Kansas City isn't following the same trends as the rest of the country, and today we're breaking down exactly what's happening in our local market and what it means for you. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Max Jones.
And I'm Zac Morton.
And if you're new to the channel, we make videos about everything you need to know about living and moving to Kansas City.
We've helped thousands of families move to Kansas City over the past 20 plus years, so if this is your first time to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Today we're giving you the real data on Kansas City's housing market in 2025, not the clickbait headlines, but the actual numbers from our local market.
And we are going to be completely honest with you about what we're seeing with prices, inventory, interest rates, and what all that means, whether you're buying, selling, or just curious about the Kansas City real estate market.
Because here's the deal. National headlines don't tell the Kansas City story. Every market is different, and Kansas City has some unique factors that make our market behave a little differently than places like California, Florida, or even other Midwest cities.
So let's dive into the real Kansas City housing market update for 2025.
Let's go. All right, so let's start with the big question everybody's asking. Are Kansas City real estate prices crashing in 2025? And the short answer is no, they're not crashing. But that doesn't mean that nothing is happening. So let's dive into the details. You've got the MLS.
Yeah, I've got the year-to-date stats pulled up for our entire MLS, which takes in a lot of the major counties that we sell in, and then it kind of goes out rural a little bit too. There's some places that are a little bit rural, but I think it's a really good snapshot of what's going on in our market, and it's, you know, it's the accurate stuff. It's not the clickbait stuff you see on the news. And you can see right here that our median sales price, that's this line right here, went from 305 to 320 last year, which is up 4.9%. So we're seeing almost a 5% increase in sales price.
Yeah, it looks like the closed sales are up too, 3.5% from 2,900 last year to almost 3,300 this year.
So year over year, we actually, yeah, we have a few more sales. It's not a dramatic increase, but a 3.5% increase in sales. What I can say, Max, is, you know, like during the pandemic when we had a lot of appreciation out here, we've actually slowed down quite a bit, you know, to get to appreciation rates at 4.9%, which, you know, I can tell you, the market as a whole, it doesn't really feel like that. I know these are lag measures. This is what happened like in September. And it does feel like, based on what we're doing, we're out in the field every day, that things are probably slowing down a little bit. I think a lot of it has to do with these days on market that are ticking up, stuff sitting on the market a little longer. So I guess at the end of the day, when you ask the question, are Kansas City real estate prices crashing? The answer is no. In fact, they're going the other direction.
Yeah, even a mild correction would be in the like 3 to 4% range. Back in 2008, 2009 crash, we saw 20% price reductions. So it was dramatic. There's nothing like that going on. While inventory is building and prices are stabilizing, I would say, they're still showing that trend that we've seen since the Great Depression of 5% year over year steady appreciation.
Yeah, so this is the graph of the average sales price, which I will point out too as we jump up back here. Average sales price for the entire MLS is at $380,000. That went up, but the median is that weighted average that we use a lot of times because that's where most of the action, the weighted action, is happening, is around 320. But if we go back and look at this graph over time, and this plays out in real estate, you go back 100 years, it's kind of the same, you know, it's up and to the right. And it's always important to point that out because, you know, where on this graph would you have liked to buy a house, Max? Maybe
the very beginning.
In the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yesterday.
Most everybody. It's like planting a tree. The best time to do it was, you know, 20 years ago, but the next best time to do it is right now. Because real estate just tends to do this, and there will be little blips and all that happen, but over time, real estate goes up and to the right. It always has, and now is the best time to get into it.
Yeah. It's funny that the value of the dollar goes the opposite direction, down into the right.
Yeah.
So I think there may be some correlation there. It's important to be invested in assets. If someone asks you, are Kansas City prices crashing? The data says no. We're seeing a market that is cooling off from its overheated conditions we've had, but it's actually a good thing for new buyers. Are you thinking about relocating to Kansas City? Well, we've got just the thing for you. Our team has actually taken the time to create the ultimate relocation guide, which is meant to save you hours of research. And we've linked it down below, from top employers, the best hospitals, and the highest rated schools, and a boatload of other information you're gonna wanna know before making the move. And the best part, boy, this guide is 100% free. That's right, you heard me right, 100% free. Just click the link in the description in the top pinned comment.
Hope that helps.
All right, so while we aren't experiencing major crashes, we are experiencing some corrections. What would you say is causing these corrections in Kansas City's real estate market? The biggest factor?
The biggest factor is interest rates. Everybody's talking about that, and that's a real headline. So yeah, rates, as those have slowly jumped up. I mean, we had super low rates, artificially low rates for a long time. In fact, almost 15 years, rates were just coming down and down and down, and now we have hit our first cycle where rates have gone up. And that's really put the brakes on the market.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we went from roughly 3%, which is historically low, to over 7% in the span of about 18 months, which completely changed buyer behavior. I don't know how many times people told me, Max, I'd like to move, but I just can't give up this 3% interest rate and trade it in for a 7, and unless they had to move. So we went from working with a lot of people that wanted to move to a lot of people that only had to move.
Yeah, that reminds me of a story last year. I was working with a guy that was shopping right between when the rates went up. We started at 3.5%. He was pre-approved for $400,000, and by the end of it, we hadn't found anything. They weren't super motivated, and the rates trickled up. He kept waiting and waiting for the rates to reverse. They ended up, closer to 7%. His buying power went from $400,000 down to $320,000 with the same $80,000 down payment. So you can see how that puts a bad taste in your mouth. As a matter of fact, they didn't end up doing anything because they just got the bad taste, and now they're just waiting for.
Yeah, most buyers don't really care about the big number. It's the monthly payment number that matters, and that changes dramatically as rates shift. So that's what's happening to buyers across the board. Higher interest rates mean fewer qualified buyers, which means less competition, which naturally puts downward pressure on the prices, which was good because the prices were getting so overheated. It was pretty nuts there for a while.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting about Kansas City specifically, because we saw price increases 15 to 20% over a couple years there, whereas a lot of the other parts of the country, like Austin, some on the West Coast, they were seeing like 30 to 40% increases.
That's so true. Kansas City usually doesn't get out ahead of its skis too much. It's pretty stable. We saw that back in 08, 09, and we've seen it now. And that means that we'd really, if there is a correction, we don't have as far to fall as some of the other markets. We don't get so overheated, we don't cool off nearly as bad. It's pretty stable.
The other factor that we've seen is inventory, and we have started to see a lot more inventory stack up over the last 12 months. Right now, we're currently sitting around 3 to 4 months of inventory. During the pandemic, we got as low as 2 weeks of inventory, and what that means is the sellers have more competition, so the buyers have a little bit more to choose from. You're not having to pay $30,000, $40,000 over compete most of the time to get a house. You're not having to waive inspections. You get to kind of do it the right way.
Yep, the market dynamics have definitely shifted, and buyers have a fighting chance nowadays. So it's actually, while rates are a little higher, it is a pretty good time to be a buyer.
So let's talk about what the current Kansas City market actually looks like for buyers and sellers in 2025.
Yeah, for buyers, this is actually the best market we've seen in about 3 to 4 years. You can actually take time to look at houses. You can negotiate the price with the seller. You can beat them up, ask for seller paid closing costs. You don't have to waive your appraised value contingency or your inspections. They're buying down the rate for the buyer, especially in new construction where they have tons of crews that they gotta keep busy. They've bought lots of lots and developed big areas of ground. We see them particularly negotiable, so it's a great time to be a buyer.
We just locked up or negotiated a contract for a buyer in Overland Park where they got $12,000 off the price and $8,000 in seller paid closing costs. And then we've got all these repairs that usually wouldn't have got done. Not the have-to repairs, but just they got in a great situation. And just last night, we got a buyer into new construction where we were able to get it $10,000 off plus $5,000 in seller paid closing costs after they had already reduced the price of the property $40,000. So significant savings there for the buyer.
Yeah, in fact, we just had D.R. Horton, a local builder here. Actually, they're a national builder, but they have a presence here locally. They're known for having really competitive prices, and they came to our office, spoke to all 17 of our agents, and they were talking about how negotiable they are and trying to incentivize us to show their listings and talking about, how they're negotiable on price and concessions. So The new construction people are out and about, and it's because homes are staying on the market longer. The average day on market in Kansas City right now is 45 to 50 days compared to 10. I mean, 10 was a long time on the market back in the peak heat of the market.
Yeah.
I mean, there were sometimes I would put a house on the market that day and have 20 offers to go to review with the seller on day one. So we might have stayed on the market a little longer by saying, hey, we'll get back to you on Monday after we look over all these offers, just because it was insanity. So buyers have a fighting chance nowadays.
So kind of like to piggyback on what you just said, Max, like you can't just, for sellers, when you list your house, you can't just throw it on the market and expect to have multiple offers like the good old days. Basically what we're telling our sellers is you have to be the best house on the market for the best price right now. So you really need to study the market, find somebody who can study the market and knows it well. Because buyers can be super picky right now, stuff sitting on the market longer, and you don't want to be, ideally, you don't want to be the seller whose house is on the market for 90, 120 days, where everybody's like, what is wrong with this property? And you just end up chasing the market down. You want to be really realistic right up front, get with somebody that's a pro and knows what they're talking about, so you don't end up in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you need to really work on the condition. You need to stage the home. We hire a home stager at our expense to work with our sellers to make sure that the house photographs really well. And when you're pricing your house as a seller, you can't look back at the past and find sold comps necessarily. You really have to look at the active competition on the market and price it to be the best. The best house at the best price right now is the way to go. And we just did that here in my neighborhood. We just listed a house, priced it correctly, and we were able to get it under contract in 18 days for just under full price. So that's what you need to do, is price it for now, and you still will get your house sold. Definitely not the good old days.
Not
for
the
sellers.
good old days where the market was doing this and we could price it here and the market would catch up to it. Now it's the opposite. The market's starting to flatten out. People still think it's going this way, so they're wanting to price up here. But by doing that, if the market starts to dip a little bit, you're so far away. As you start to chase it down, you're chasing the market, and you end up just having to make it. So we're trying to get everybody to get right here to where it runs right into it. It's ready to go.
Yep, Gordy's barking upstairs, so he agrees 100%.
The American dream, own a house and a dog and a couple kids.
Yeah. All right, let's go over some neighborhood specific trends, because it does really matter where you're at and what price range and what location.
Totally. In the suburban markets like Johnson County, Lee Summit, the Northland, we're still seeing really stable prices, and we're also seeing those things move pretty quickly.
Yeah, in Johnson County, we're really not seeing much of a price decrease at all. Overland Park, Leawood, Prairie Village, they're really strong. We are still getting multiple offers in those areas. Not 20 offers, but we're getting 2 or 3, and usually a hair over asking price still, especially in the price ranges that are 400 and below. You won't find anything 200 and below in Johnson County, but in fact, we did have one buyer that Chanel was working with that they were shopping, I think, up to 250, 300 in Johnson County, and they had multiple offers. They had to write
Everything.
Yeah, they had to write like 8 offers on different homes before they were able to get one, because it was still so competitive. So it just really depends on what price range you're in and where you're at. For example, you had that one up in Kearney.
Yeah, so as you get, Kearney's more of a rural area on the outside of kind of the suburban boundary, and we're starting to see prices actually probably flatline to decrease out there a little bit, because unfortunately this seller just bought the property 2 years ago and basically has had to sell it at the exact same price after doing a few updates and all that. So it was an unfortunate thing, but it's just, as you get away from the city and these things, the market conditions kind of change. Some of those areas can get affected a little faster.
So yeah, on the outskirts and then really in the urban core are probably being affected more than in the really nice suburb schools areas. And then I would say the luxury market is probably taking a bigger hit than anything, because the number of buyers for homes 6 to $1 million, there's just fewer buyers in that range. And then also you're competing with new construction. So I have one right now that is 650, and it's competing head to head with new construction. And while it will be more square footage, I think it's just shy of 15 years old. So the roof's older, the HVAC, the paint job, everything's a little bit older on it. And the buyer looks at that as like, well, geez, I could buy this other one that's brand new. Yeah, it's a few few hundred square feet smaller, but I don't have to do anything to it. So yeah, that's the dynamic in the luxury market.
Yeah, and you know what, Max, I will say too is that, we're talking about things being stable to still improving. Obviously, the stats say we're up 5%, but another telltale is the appraisals. So we always, on every transaction, there has to be an appraisal most of the time, unless you're just paying cash and waive it. But I haven't seen any of the verbiage. There's always that verbiage where it's a stable market, it's an appreciated market, or it's a declining market. And I haven't seen declining on any appraisals in Kansas City yet. We did in the old days, but haven't seen that yet. I've seen stable and appreciating on all my appraisals this year.
All right, so let's talk about interest rates specifically with right now, current market conditions, what we've seen just in the past month and where we're projecting them to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, just starting off the year in 2025, we were anywhere from 6 to 7%, kind of been bouncing around in there, and now we're a little closer to 6.
Yes.
The last couple months?
Yeah, so I think just in October, there was a lot of buzz that the Fed was going to cut rates. And just so you guys know, the mortgage rates are correlated to the Fed funds rate. However, they're not directly tied to it. So what we see a lot of times is there's the buzz that the Fed is going to cut rates and rates will go down in anticipation of a cut. And then what we saw this most recent cut was the Fed cut 1/4% and rates actually went up. And so people are like, what in the heck's going on here? They're not directly tied to, they're just correlated. And if the Fed doesn't cut as deeply as people were anticipating, then rates could go up. They've also indicated that they're going to do a tapering cycle through the end of the year. If the unemployment numbers and everything stay the same, or worsen. So there's anticipation that there's going to be further cuts, and so what we're seeing is some buyers are waiting in anticipation, which could potentially be a mistake.
What we always tell everybody, it's kind of a little funny one to remember, but marry the house and date the rate, because you can't ever undo paying too much for a house, but you can refinance the property, anytime. So rates come down, you just refinance, your mortgage just went down. If rates don't come down, then you're a hero because you got the best darn rate you could at the time.
Yeah, and our biggest concern for buyers that are gonna wait for rates to come down is if they do come down, and if they come down sharply, there's a ton of pent up demand. There are a lot of people that have been waiting for rates to come down to make their move. And if they do, we could see a return to those multiple offers that we talked about. And if that happens, then you're 20, 30 grand over ask price to secure the house that you want. You can never get out of that. That's a decision, that's a one-time decision. Whereas your rate, you can refinance it 10 times while you're in the house as rates come down.
What's Warren Buffett always say, like to do the opposite of the crowd mentality, like when everybody's rushing in. So right now is a great time. And then when rates come down, you just refinance, you're already in the house you love, and you don't have to go through all that mess.
Yeah, it's something about greed and fear. So I think it is when everybody's greedy, that's when you should be fearful.
Yep, and when everybody's fearful, you should be greedy.
Yeah.
So go get your house, man.
Let's talk about some of the loan programs that we have. There's in Kansas City.
As rates have gone up, see, lenders still want to keep lending money. That's how they make money. So they're trying to come up with competitive ways to keep these loans flowing to help buyers find houses for affordable. So we do have the VA that's always out there if you're a veteran. A lot of times that's 0% down financing, so you can get in the house with no money out of pocket. There's also USDA, which if you're buying on the rural, there's a boundary around Kansas City, and you'd be surprised how close in some of these USDA loans count. That's 0% down as well, and great rates on those. And then there's some loans out there if you're a doctor or a nurse anesthetist, 0 down as well. And then there's some lower income opportunities as well. So I think, what is it, like $90,000 right now if you have combined household income below $90,000. There's a great program where you're getting free down payment assistance and you're getting a grant. So there's all these programs out there. Can you think of any others that?
Yeah, they call that the first time home buyer program, but to qualify as a first time home buyer, it doesn't have to be your first time. I think you just can't have owned a home in the past 2 years and claimed it on your tax return. So we can put you with some of the best loan officers in the country, and they actually are local. We work with them all the time. They offer all different types of programs. Just depending on what your situation is, we can definitely point you in the right direction.
Yeah, most people start looking at houses, but it's definitely worth it if you start with the mortgage side first, get pre-approved, figure out what programs are available, spend a little time in that department before you start sniffing for houses.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than falling in love with a wonderful home and then
having your heart broken because you can't afford it.
Yeah. That is no fun. All right, let's go into a little more about inventory, the whole supply and demand curve. We mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I think it's worth digging into the details on what constitutes a buyer's market versus a seller's market.
So typically a balanced market is when you have 6 months of inventory. And what that means is at the velocity homes are selling, it would take 6 months to sell every property on the market. And when we have 6 months, that's about perfect. Now, realistically, things are going to keep coming on the market, so that's a moving target. And right now, I mean, during COVID, we got down to 2 weeks, and back in 2007, we got up to 3 years of inventory. And now we are sitting right around, let's see, I can tell you exactly, we've got 42 days year to date.
I think we're right at between 3 and 4 months of inventory right now. So we are just shy of being a balanced market. So the market technically still does favor the seller. However, buyers have been in just the dog days of depression with, it's favored the seller so greatly that the buyers actually feel like they have a fighting chance now, that it's close to a balanced market. So we're seeing buyers come back with a vengeance and, really kind of beating up the seller.
Not only is it more of a balanced market, but it's really good for both sides. There's less lawsuits because people aren't waiving inspections. You've got to work together. The buyer and the seller have to make sure that the house meets everybody's criteria before they close. So at the end of it, everybody's happy. When you walk away, the clients are happy. Nobody's getting sued. Agents are happy. They're getting a great house. They didn't waive inspections.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it doesn't have to be an adversarial relationship. It can be a win-win, where the seller has their house on the market and gets a good, fair price, and the buyer is able to purchase it and not have to completely put themselves at risk in order to buy a house. So win-win situation is actually a good thing.
Don't you love it, Max, when waive inspections and the first hard rain, your buyer calls you and like,
oh my gosh,
my basement's full of water, what the hell happened? And it's like, well, we waived inspections. I shouldn't have cussed.
Yeah.
Beep that, please.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, I never recommend completely waiving inspections. There's 3 different ways you can do that. You can still do them for your knowledge and remove the ability to renegotiate. For all those people out there that are completely waiving them, be a pro, be a professional house flipper, or really know your stuff to completely waive the inspection. I'm buying a rental property right now and I did not completely waive the inspection. I'm scoping the sewer and doing my due diligence for sure. Even on new construction, you don't want to completely waive the...
Yep, it's always a good idea. I almost always find something on new construction that even though you've got the builder looking it over and you've got all the city code inspectors coming in. There was one story I remember, was a giant house. Nobody had gotten on the roofers actually missed like a little part of one of the roofs where you had like 2 roofs come together and there was one under it, and it never got, it had tar paper, but it never got shingles, so the inspector caught it. So, yep. Always hire your inspector.
Yeah, on my house, in fact, there's an overhang, like a cantilever, that overhangs where my office is, and they didn't put any sheeting underneath the cantilever. So I noticed it when cold air was coming in my basement. There was a really cold spot, and got to looking, and they never sheeted it. It was insulated, but could have had a raccoon climb up in there and make my home their home. Get those inspections on all purchases, from new construction to total beater. All right, so we're getting a little off topic here, talking about inspections, but it is worth saying and reiterating. Let's talk about those economic factors, because Kansas City, the housing market does not exist in a vacuum. There's a lot of things that can affect the housing market, and usually that's the job markets.
Yeah, Kansas City's actually pretty stable for jobs as one. We don't have a lot of like big oil companies or big tech boom stuff going on in Kansas City. We don't have a big tourism business, so we're pretty stable. There's not a lot that knock us off track. So we have a pretty stable job market. In fact, we're seeing 3 to 4% unemployment, so we're pretty steady and just keep trucking along.
Our job market is really diverse. We've got healthcare, logistics, manufacturing, government, some technology, not a ton, but it's actually growing in that area. So no single industry really dominates, and that makes us very recession resistant. And Kansas City has also been really affordable, an affordable market compared to the coast for sure. So we have seen some price increases, but we're still way more affordable than Denver, Austin, Nashville, any of these major coastal cities. Not whole lot of hype around Kansas City except for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. As far as the market goes, it's pretty stable, pretty steady Eddie.
Yeah, and I just read a stat from the National Association of Realtors. It just came out for September, and that most of the housing sales occurred in the Midwest nationally, because almost 22% lower priced homes here in the Midwest. So, which reminds me of a client that I have that moved here from San Diego, and they had sold their 1,200-foot condo for $800,000, and then they moved here, bought a 3,000 square foot home with a nice big yard, 3-car garage for $350,000, and now they're just like super happy and that perfect TV family couple.
Yeah, putting some money in your pocket. Yeah. So yeah, that's why we're seeing population growth in Kansas City. Maybe not as rapid as we saw during the pandemic when everybody was leaving the expensive cities, but we are still growing and we love it.
Hey guys, it's Zach and Max here with the MoJo Real Estate Team, and we love making these videos, but there's one thing that we love even more, and that's helping people and families from all over the world move to Kansas City. We've helped thousands of families over the last 26 years in business, but you don't have to take our word for it. You can see what our clients have to say with over 750 5-star Google reviews from folks just like you. So whether you're moving next week, next month, or even next year, you can reach out to us anytime. Our contact information is on the screen, and we've also got it pinned in the description below. And we look forward to chatting with you about your move to Kansas City.
So Max, what do you think is going to happen in the Kansas City market for the rest of 2025?
Ooh, I look like a weather forecaster?
Kind of. Crystal ball genie.
Yeah, if you want to know what the weather is going to be, then stick your head outside and I'll tell you. But yeah, we don't have any crystal balls, but we do have an opinion on what's going to happen for the future. So the forecast for the future, I believe, is going to be not very dramatic, not a lot of sizzle. I think the prices could depreciate a little bit, maybe 2-3%. If just depends on what happens with unemployment and the interest rates. That's kind of our wild card. So I don't see any dramatic shifts, but that flattening could develop into maybe a little bit of prices going down. We haven't seen it for years, so probably anywhere from going up by 5% to down 2 to 3%.
Yeah, I mean, sitting at almost 5% this month, even if you came down 2 or 3% by the end of the year, you're still positive. So that's kind of what I see. I see things maybe flat. It's just what it feels like, because what we're doing right now, this data is already a month old, and it just feels like things are getting a little flatter. Maybe days on market are going to continue to stretch out a little bit, but it's not dramatic. It's just these tiny little incremental changes. And I think as soon as we bounce back into spring, everybody gets their tax returns and starts shopping again. So I really think it'll just flatline to that point, and then we'll be off again.
Yeah, I think nothing crazy, no crazy favoring the seller or the buyer, but I do think if rates come down, that there will be a point where maybe right around 5.5% or 5.25%, if they get there. I think that delta between the people that have 3.5 locked in isn't going to be so dramatic. They've got quite a bit of equity in their home, so their loan amounts are going to be lower. That payment differential isn't going to be so dramatic that it's going to prevent them from making a move if they want to. What we see is people have had another kid, so they've gone from 2 kids to 3, and their house is too small, but that difference is just too wide right now. I think once rates come down, we could see a lot of pent-up demand unlocked and maybe return to those multiple offers again, because inventory levels haven't grown so much that there's just a ton to choose from. So I do think that it's balanced right now and buyers have a good shot, but that could change.
Yeah, I predict over the next 6 to 12 months that buyers have a great opportunity to make something happen. After that, it could go either way. So if you're considering it, I would strongly encourage you to get looking and try to make something happen.
Yeah, and if you're a seller, just be realistic. Price based on the active competition, not the past comps. If you're looking in the past, there could have been someone that had a house that was just really nice on a great lot that sold for $15,000, $20,000 more than you're gonna wanna price yours right now. So just try and be realistic about the condition and the competition. So we're doing a little bit of predictions for the future. Why don't we hand out a little bit of free advice for buyers?
If you're thinking about buying in Kansas City right now, what should you do?
First, get pre-approved. Get with a great local lender. Just like we said, we've got people that we can recommend to you. that we know are going to get you the best rate and provide excellent service, and get all your ducks in a row to make sure that you're really competitive once you find the right home. The last thing you want to do is be chasing down a pre-approval letter when you got an offer hanging out there, because the seller wants to see that you have the ability to perform.
Yeah, and don't try to time the market perfectly. Nobody ever does. You know, you saw that graph with real estate going up and to the right. Just get in, find the right house for you, and jump on it.
Yeah, really the perfect time for you is when it aligns with your goals. Your timing for whatever makes sense for your life and your finances is the perfect time. Otherwise, it was last year when prices were lower.
And honestly, most people are, you know, selling a house and buying a house. You know, there's a lot of people that we talk to from this channel that are moving into Kansas City or coming here because of work or something else, and they have a house to sell. So, you know, you're selling a house in the same market that you're buying a house in. So you don't have to worry about timing at all. If the market's down 10% and you're buying in a market that's down 10%, well, then you still haven't lost anything. And if you're buying in a market that's up 10% or selling it up to, you know, you get the idea. You're just replacing your asset in the same market.
Yeah, it's Warren Buffett's old famous quote that we've mentioned a few times on the channel. It's not about timing the market, it's time in the market.
Yep.
So be invested in real estate and really take advantage of the fact that you can actually negotiate now. So get with a great real estate agent. I prefer that you get with us and our great real estate team. However, get good advice and negotiate for concessions. You can negotiate on price, you can negotiate having help with closing costs, you can negotiate for your agent's commission to be paid, you can request repairs after the inspection. So all these things that you couldn't necessarily do a couple years ago, you have at your fingertips now, so take advantage of that.
Yeah, and just to dovetail on that, I will say several times a year we go and sit in a room with some of the best agents across the country and cities all over, even Canada. So if you are in another city and you want an awesome realtor, please reach out to us. We can totally connect you with somebody that's amazing and does.
Yeah, we network for a living, so it's not just with contractors in Kansas City that we know the best.
Yeah.
We know the best real estate agents and real estate teams around the country, so we can definitely steer you in the right direction there. Don't waive your inspection, we mentioned that. Get it inspected. Consider different neighborhoods too. There are some areas in Kansas City that if you go just a little bit outside of the hotspot, then you're still adjacent to the, you know, Overland Parks of the world. You know, Overland Park and Lenexa, for example, are side by side. Both offer amazing neighborhoods and amenities, but you can get a pretty big price differential between the two, so consider those different areas.
Yeah, most people are looking for school districts that have kids, so yeah, being open to the same school district but maybe a different suburb opens up the options.
Yeah, it can be big. So work with an agent that knows the local area, because every neighborhood in Kansas City is a little bit different and you really need somebody to help you guide through all that traffic.
Yep, to the right areas. Good job.
All right, so now that we've given the buyers some free advice, let's talk to our sellers out there and see if we can give them a little bit of something to think about. All right, sellers, what do you say, Zach?
All right, sellers, so we talked about it a little bit, so we're just gonna kind of bullet point this, but be realistic on price. You know, don't price it for what happened 6 months ago, price it for the competition right now. You're gonna wanna have the best looking property on the market compared to your competition. So make sure you touch up all the paint, clean the heck out of the house, mow the grass, trim the shrubs. You want that look like if you're gonna sell your car, you do everything to it, you clean it, you wax it, you put armor on the tires. That's what you want to do to your house. And just be prepared to negotiate, and also be prepared to sit on the market a little bit longer than you normally would.
Great advice. Yeah, you want to be the best available, the best girl at the dance, I like to say.
Prettiest girl at the dance.
Yeah, and then just don't panic. You know, if you've been on the market for a little while, you don't have to completely drop your price or do anything crazy, because the average is 40 to 50 days on market. So the first open house on the weekend is probably not going to sell your house. You got to have trust in your agent and be patient. All right, so all you investors out there, we'll give you a little investor perspective. Zach and I are investors also. We've done some flips over the years. We buy rental properties. I'm actually buying one right now, so I do think that the market is a good time to be a buyer, both for owner occupants but also investors. And really, you just gotta make sure your numbers are right. You have to be able to buy it at a price where the seller's main objective isn't necessarily price. Sometimes sellers really value timing or convenience over the price, so you gotta buy it at a price that makes sense. Because what you really want to do is, after you put your 25% down, the monthly payment needs to be less than you can rent it for. So they call that cash flow, everything that you make above your payment. So you want to have $200, $300, $400 a month minimum in cash flow after you make your payment, so you can build a little kitty for your repairs and maintenance. And yeah, the Kansas City real estate market in general does still have good opportunities. We're seeing good cap rates on not only single family, but multifamily and commercial real estate. So, you know, a lot of people that are coming from the coast where the property values have really outpaced the rental market. That isn't necessarily the case in Kansas City. Again, we stay pretty balanced. So investors are coming from California and coming here and saying, geez, I can turn my one door into four doors in Kansas City. So it can still be a good time to be an investor, but you got to make sure the numbers make sense and that you have a little bit of cash flow.
Hey, and maybe you're a first-time home buyer, so it's a great time to be a first-time home buyer, especially with the financing programs that are out there. There's a financing program out there right now that'll pay your down payment for you of 3.5%. So you already have equity when you step into that property. You have no money out of pocket. And oftentimes, the way the market is, we're able to negotiate closing costs, some other incentives like a home warranty that'll protect the whole house for an entire year, all of the major components of the house like the furnace, air conditioner, dishwasher, you name it. So really good opportunities right now for first-time home buyers to get into properties all around the Kansas City metro area. And the beauty about the KC metro area is we have great price points in almost every suburb of Kansas City. So even if you want to get in one of the Kansas City's biggest and baddest suburbs, like you said, Chanel just locked one up for right around $300,000 in Overland Park, or was it less, 280?
It was Johnson County. It was a little on the south side of Overland Park. But yeah, it is possible if you're a first-time home buyer to still get in the great areas.
Yeah, it's a little more competitive.
It's more competitive, and you know, I think the key thing is not to expect this to be your last home.
Right.
It's your first home. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be a little bit of a fixer-upper if you're kind of handy, or you know, it doesn't have to be the forever dream home. Just get something to get started and start building equity, because you'll take that first home and parlay it into your second, and rather than starting from scratch with a down payment, you'll be able to bring that equity to your next purchase for your down payment. Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about new construction. We mentioned D.R. Horton coming into our office and all the incentives they're offering. So new construction can be a way to get a good deal.
Yeah, I mean, during the peak, new construction used to be able to just do whatever they wanted. In fact, they could increase the price while you were under contract. You could be under contract to build a house, and by the end of it, changing nothing, making no changes, the price of that house would go up because of the cost of materials, and you're just kind of saddled with that. So it completely changed from that to where you had no choice, no say, they wouldn't do anything, to now builders are really willing to work with you, do extra things, either drop the price, pay closing costs, add steps, add a deck, add a fence around the yard. I will say that builders like to keep the price. They don't like to drop the price of the house because it protects the appraisal for the entire neighborhood if those prices stay high, but they love to do extra stuff in lieu of that. So there's just a lot of options right now with new construction.
It made me think of remember our home inspector, Brandon, that we like to recommend, great guy. His mom was buying a new construction house and the builder came to him at the last minute and tried to pull that, wanted like $30,000 more for the house, and we're not lawyers, but we referred him to a lawyer, and that builder was not able to do that. Ultimately, that was before they had the addendum clause. Those supply chain disruptions were insane. So builders do have their I's dotted and T's crossed a little better than they did. However, the market conditions don't allow them just to say, well, I'll sell it to the next guy. I've got 20 people lined up. So you do have a fighting chance. I will say that new construction is a little bit of a luxury. It's kind of like buying a new car. When you drive it off the lot, it does depreciate a little bit. It also doesn't come with all of the bells and whistles that a resale property comes with. So blinds and garage door openers and mailboxes and there are a lot of things that you have to add to a new construction home, but it is brand new and nobody's ever lived in it. There is some value to that.
Yeah, you get to use the first one on the toilet. Yeah, and you kind of, with new construction, you're gonna have to wait too before you sell that until that neighborhood gets completely built out, because until then, you're always gonna be competing with the new construction in your subdivision. So keep that in mind too. If it looks like they've got a few more phases going, you ideally wanna stick around for a few years.
I've seen that happen. When in a declining market, the builder has the ability to take a less profit margin and undercut any potential resale in there. Anytime you're buying a house, you want to make sure you're going to be there for 5 to 7 years, but especially with new construction, you can make yourself vulnerable. And speaking of waiting, if your timing is a concern, a lot of times with new construction, it's not turn around and close in 30 days like you can with resale. Sometimes you have to wait for, if it's a spec home, it might be 90 days out or something. So you have to be a little more flexible with your timing on new construction.
All right, now for that question of the day. For those of you thinking about moving to Kansas City, where are you going to be moving from, and what's the main reason you're leaving your current city or state? We are truly curious, so make sure to let us know down below. Also, if you have any questions or thoughts, you can leave those in the comments down below, or even better, text, call, or email us. Our information is on the pop-up on the screen.
So I think probably the single most important thing about new construction is the reputation of the builder.
And the track record, you know, somebody that's been around, knows what they're doing, is gonna be around in the future.
Yeah, if they give you a 1-year builder warranty, but they might be out of business in 3 months, that doesn't do you any good.
No. So
There's a Tommy Boy quote about that.
There's a lot of ways we can check that too and share resources with you to show you how long they've been a part of the association, how long they've been building, their track record, where they're building, and reviews on the builder from current customers and clients.
Yeah, we know all of the builders in Kansas City. Some have great reputations, some not so great. We're not going to call anybody out, good or bad, on this video. However, if you're interested in new construction, you can reach out to us and we can definitely give you the lowdown.
Or the up high.
Or the up high. All right.
So what does all this mean for the future of Kansas City real estate?
I think we're moving towards a more sustained, balanced market, and the crazy appreciation we saw during the pandemic wasn't sustainable long term.
A market where prices appreciate 3 to 5% a year is much healthier than one where they go up 20% a year. That rapid appreciation prices out local workers and creates instability in the market.
Yeah, it sure does. Kansas City's always been really steady, reliable market, and I think we're returning to that steadiness after a couple years of a lot of turbulence and unusual conditions.
And honestly, that's good for everyone because buyers can make informed decisions without pressure and sellers get fair value for their homes and the market can grow sustainably.
Yeah, the fundamentals of Kansas City really haven't changed. If anything, they've improved. We've got good jobs, good schools, affordable living, great quality of life, and those things support long-term values. All right, so let's wrap it up here for our Kansas City housing market update. Here are our final recommendations.
If you're buying, don't wait for the perfect market conditions because they don't exist. Focus on finding the right house for you and your needs at the right price that you can afford.
And if you're selling, be realistic about pricing and market conditions. Work with an agent who understands the current market and can position your house correctly.
Don't make a decision based on fear or FOMO. Whether you're buying or selling, base your decision on your personal situation and long-term goals.
And remember, real estate is local. National headlines don't tell the Kansas City story. Work with professionals who understand our specific market.
The Kansas City market isn't crashing, but it is normalizing, and that creates opportunities for smart buyers and sellers who understand current conditions.
So to answer the original question, are Kansas City real estate's prices crashing in 2025? No, they're not crashing. But the market has definitely changed from the overheated conditions we saw a few years ago.
We're seeing a more balanced market with modest price adjustments, more inventory, and better opportunities for buyers to navigate. That's not a crash, that's a healthy correction.
So if you're thinking about buying or selling in Kansas City, we're here to help. We know this market inside and out, and we could definitely help you navigate the condition.
Whether you're a first-time home buyer, you're looking to move up, or considering an investment property, we'll give you honest advice based on your specific situation and goals.
We're not just realtors, we're Kansas City experts who want to help make the best decision for you and your situation. And we'll back that up with our little guarantee that we have. It's a love it or list it guarantee where if you buy a home and you don't absolutely love it, in the first year, we'll put it back on the market and sell it free of charge.
Guarantee. So thanks for watching our Kansas City housing market update. And if you find this helpful, please make sure you subscribe for more information about Kansas City or real estate.
If you have specific questions about buying or selling in the current market, drop them comments below and we'll answer them. We love hearing from you guys.
Or better yet, reach out to us directly because we love having a conversation with you about your goals and how we can help.
All right, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.